and welcome back to this Star Wars expanded universe, never done by Disney or Lucasfilm, whichever way you slice it. Legends. Today, I have for you a little bit of stuff, starting with the classic, original Marvel comic run. Um, I don't know if I mentioned before, but the first 4 issues are literally just the movie to episode 4. In fact, the first 4 issues, or 5, or whatever it was, they came out before, or 6, it might have been 6, came out before Star Wars the movie came out. There's some backstory here. Matt Wilkins is more the backstory guy than I am, because I'm not as knowledgeable about behind the scenes information. That's one of the things I'm ignorant about. But from watching his videos and stuff, what I understand is that, um, you know, episode 4 was not meant to be, at least in the eyes of the public, or Star Wars was going to be another popcorn flick. There's a lot of sci-fi movies from that time period that were released, and they did fine. They sold okay, but they weren't like, investors weren't like, oh, that's a franchise out there. It's not like the MCU today with Marvel. It was like that, even if it's mediocre, it's going to give us money, right? Like, because that's such a big thing now. But Star Wars, nobody really had faith in, or a lot of people didn't. There's only a couple people that we know for sure had faith in the project, one of them being Sir Alec McGuinness himself. Not even George Lucas, the man himself, thought that it was going to be a successful film. Um, so he looks really depressed, and a lot of the clips you can see from episode 4 of him just being like, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I hope for the best. So they kind of just like threw out those first couple issues, which were just a movie, and it looks like garbage. I mean, Luke Skywalker looks like He-Man. Freaking Chewie looks like Bigfoot or something. Like, it doesn't look like them. It looks crappy. They got red lightsabers, and they just look ugly, and that's because they just shoved it out. Because, like, well, people are a little bit hyped for this movie, so we'll just throw out this comic real quick before the movie comes out, so we get some bang for our buck, right? But then the movie sold like crazy. And so they made 100 issues worth of comics of the Marvel run. Um, and so they tried a bit harder after the fact, because they realized, oh, Star Wars sells. So we need to capitalize on that. Because, um, big props and big praise goes to Timothy Zahn and the Thrawn trilogy in the 90s for revitalizing Star Wars. However, while the movies themselves were still coming out, before the decline happened after all the movies came out. While the movies were coming out, there's a whole lot of hype, a whole lot of excitement, ready for each installment. The excitement for episode 5, the excitement for episode 6. But when, after all those movies came out, nobody knew we were going to get prequels. And we had like droids and Ewoks. And people just stopped caring, because we had Back to the Future and a lot of other good movies in the 80s and early 90s. People didn't care. They had other things on their mind now. And then the Thrawn trilogy saved it. And now, whether you love or hate Disney canon, it all exists because of Timothy Zahn's work. But in between the movies, when you wanted your Star Wars fix, you went to the comics. And that's what we have. So starting, I think, with issue 7, it's the first like real story that takes place after the movies. And we have, I don't want to get into it too much, but it does deal with a question that I never really asked, but I'm glad it's answered. What happened with Han Solo's money? Because he asked for prize money. And I guess we could if you didn't read the comics, you could assume, well, he just neglected the money. He just said, it's okay, I don't need any more, I got my friends. No, he got the money. And he was going to pay off Jabba so we don't have to worry about it and then still help the Rebel Alliance. But he lost the money. To who? Well, to a very 70s looking villain, Crimson Jack, who would be a reoccurring villain through the early issues of um, this series. Moving on to issue 8, though, the big, oh, the EU sucks because of X. That issue today being Jackson, the rabbit alien. I honestly didn't mind it. I mean, let's be honest here. We also live in a world of Star Wars where there's cat people. And that's even in the serious works. Look at Tales of the Jedi, or Knights of the Old Republic, or the Han Solo trilogy. Cat people exist. You tell me that we can't be okay with a rabbit person existing? I mean, hell, if you read that old cantina thing that I mentioned once, freaking chickens and dogs exist in the universe. I mean, I don't know. But I found Jackson a lot of fun. Basically, Han gets a bunch of smuggler-like people to help him get back the money that he's lost. So that's a whole adventure. And I really, really enjoyed them. It's a lot of fun, for sure. But eventually, they do end up defeating Crimson Jack, and he was like the early villain in those comics. And then he's finally taken out. Him and Han Solo and him go mano-y-mano. That's kind of fun. They're decent. I want to, they're not horrible for the story anyway. It's decent stuff. Nothing phenomenal or anything, but it's fun. So that happens. And then we have to move over to an entirely separate thing, which is classic Star Wars, issues 1 through 6. Now, classic Star Wars is a compilation making into like a normal comic book, because Archie Goodwin, but not just Archie Goodwin, there's another guy who started it, but then sadly passed away. There was these new newspaper strips, right? So your dad or your mom in the 70s, or would go and buy a newspaper to read the news or whatever. And on some of those pages would be 2 panels or 2 pages worth, not 2 pages of a newspaper, but like, a couple panels of an ongoing comic. And you'd have to keep reading the newspaper to get the whole story. This collects all of it and colorizes it, because before it was just in black and white because it's in a newspaper. So, but just think about that. Being a kid in like the 70s, you really don't have video games yet. You don't have the internet yet. So, you want more stories with Han, Luke, and Chewie and Leia after episode 4? You asked your dad if you could read the newspaper after him. I just think that's kind of interesting. But it is a compilation, and by golly, is it fun. I had so much fun with this freaking series. I think the first big story arc is that Luke is having how do I say this? He's jealous about Han and Leia getting closer. Which, I think at this point they still didn't know they were brother and sisters, so. Anyway, he's jealous, so he takes on a mission so he can get away, thank God. And he's to be a rebel spy on this new ship being built. Or this new ship that's in development, or not development. It's like just gotten done. And what is that? I think it's the Executor. It's the big Star Destroyer we've seen, I think, in Episode 5 for the first time. That's like Vader's capital ship. But he goes there to be a rebel spy. However, the Imperials want to overthrow Darth Vader so they could be in Palpatine's favor. However, another twist upon twist upon twist. One single one single Imperial just wants to help Vader weed out the traitors. Hell, this whole plan isn't even to get Luke, because at this point, Vader still doesn't know that Luke is his son, and so he could care less really about him. He mainly wants to get the Imperials that are trying to betray him, and his plan works perfectly. It's a lot of fun. This is also the time that Luke gets his first girlfriend. Not really girlfriend. They have like this sort of little fling, and then it drops off. But her name was Tenneth Shire. She's okay. She's no Mara or Callista. No, but she's not around long enough to hate. She's not long enough to like. She's there. She seems like she has a quirky, alright little personality, but it's nothing incredible. But by the end, Vader had his suspicions about the person that blew up the Death Star having the Force. He knows with absolute certainty by the end of these comics that whoever this kid is, he does have the Force and he's strong in it. Now, there is a particular storyline where Vader does come to the realization that Luke is his son. And that's why he's so, like, hard-bent on getting him in Episode 5. But that story is not going to be for a bit. The next story after that, Luke crash lands on this planet, and there's these, like, dragon lizard beasts, and there's... we still got Tenneth Shire. Who's trying to free her people or whatever. And you have stormtroopers, but not actually stormtroopers, people who, like, got the armor, that have jousting sticks, that shoot lasers, and they ride the beasts. It's kind of silly, but at the same time, when you look at the comic art for it, it's kind of awesome. I'm not gonna lie, it's kind of cool. But of course, Luke begins his journey of getting over the fact that he can't swim, or at least not very well, because he lived on a desert planet most of his life. But that was interesting, and you know, it's a decent little thing. There's not a single comic, I have to say, whether it be the Marvel run or the classic Star Wars run, that I have not thoroughly enjoyed. I did not expect to enjoy this as much as I have. I am blown away by the quality of this. I thought, you know, it would age, right? Because it's from the 70s. And yet, I'm enjoying every minute of it. You know, and I know there's like 2015 comics that came out in the Rebellion era, which I felt like, come on, are you kidding me? Like, I know it's Disney canon, but like, really? You know, like, there's so much here. We haven't scratched the surface yet of the Rebellion era. There is so much content in the Rebellion era, and they couldn't, like, come up with anything, or at least steal Brian Wood's work. Throw that to canon, please. We don't want it. But yeah, I don't know. I love these. I wouldn't trade them for a 2015 issue or any. I don't care if the art looks better or whatever. These are so much fun. They're so much fun, and I highly, highly recommend them. Up next, we finish off the Star Wars classic story arc, at least for a bit. I don't know if we'll be returning to it. And some other things. So I hope you'll join me for that. Until next time, guys, may the Force be with you.